Beyond Ukraine, the war in that country has led to food shortages in many places around the world. But new government-imposed climate regulations may create an even greater global food crisis. Dale Hurd explains how new environmental laws are causing hardship for farmers and consumers.
The most efficient system in history of growing food and getting it to consumers, modern farming, is under attack, blamed for causing climate change. The world has watched as Dutch farmers fight for their economic survival against demands that they shrink their operations to suit the government's climate change agenda. Sri Lanka's ban of chemical fertilizers in farming caused the struggling nation's agricultural sector and then its economy to collapse. It ended with protesters frolicking in the presidential swimming pool after the nation's leader fled the country. Sri Lanka was supposed to be the poster child of modern organic farming. The World Economic Forum even proudly posted this article about Sri Lanka's future success, written by the Prime Minister whose house was set on fire by protesters. Parts of the world already face famine because of a shortage of chemical fertilizer due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The same kind of fertilizer environmentalists want to reduce. Washington attorney Gary Bass, who helped start the Environmental Protection Agency in 1970 and now says it should be abolished because it's Orwellian, owns 11 farms in Illinois. He calls what the Dutch government is trying to do to its farming sector madness and sees signs a similar movement is coming to the U.S.
Agriculture is an easy target, both from the animal standpoint and from guys like me who put a lot of anhydrous ammonia on their corn crop.
Bass believes the era of cheap food at the grocery store is over, not just from inflation, but because of growing environmental regulations on farming, and says Sri Lanka should be a warning to leaders who want to experiment with food production.
That's what happens when you don't have food.
Nevertheless, the Biden administration appears to be coming after farmers. Steve Malloy, editor of the website junkscience.com, writes that a new study by the EPA claims that farm dust kills 17,000 Americans per year, the same EPA standards that basically killed the coal industry.
These are people who want to control every aspect of our lives, and that includes energy production and use and food use. They believe food production is a major contributor to, global warming. They're not going to give up on agriculture. They don't like agriculture.
Any government willing to risk its food supply in order to fight climate change might want to keep Sri Lanka in mind. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
New York Times bestselling author Jerome Corsi has written the new book, The Truth About Energy, Global Warming, and Climate Change, exposing lies in an age of disinformation. Dr. Corsi, good to have you with us. Climate change activists are encouraged by these new climate laws, but their voices are growing even louder now as a result of excessive summer heat in Europe, the United States, also drought and wildfires. Now, you wrote this book to expose lies. So what's the biggest lie, in your opinion?
I think the biggest lie has to do with carbon dioxide, which is the demonization the left is saying because of the carbon dioxide that is emitted by hydrocarbon fuels burned by human beings, the oil, natural gas, coal. We're going to destroy the planet with global warming and climate change. If we go back in Earth's history, Earth has been here for 4.6 billion years. About 500 million years ago, the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere started reducing. 175 million years ago, it was 7,500 parts per million of the atmosphere. Today, carbon dioxide is only 400 parts per million of the atmosphere. Now, global warmists say that this is double in the Industrial Revolution. That's right. When the Industrial Revolution started, carbon dioxide was only 200 parts per million of the atmosphere, but it's still a trace element. Carbon dioxide is about 0.0003 or 4% of the atmosphere. It is not a climate heat driver. I can point to and do in the book many instances of ice ages where the Earth had extraordinarily larger amounts of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We had an ice age and there were no human beings here at all.
Well, you call this climate agenda a neo-Marxist an anti-capitalist global warming hoax. Explain why you believe money and politics are driving this.
Well, even going back into the history, it started with after World War II with this Paul Ehrlich and this too many people population bomb. We're going to expend all the resources of the earth. We're going to run out of resources. We need to have fewer people. And then John Holdren, who became the Obama science czar, joined, and they decided with Holdren and Ehrlich, they would blame the economy, not just the economy, but the economy with hydrocarbon fuels, causing, they thought in the 70s, global cooling. We were going to have a new ice age. When the Earth started warming at the end of the 70s, it switched to global warming. But essentially, since we burn hydrocarbon fuels that emit carbon dioxide, the climate deniers, climate warmists, picked carbon dioxide as the demon and said, we've got to stop burning carbon dioxide or we will all die. And that is a direct way to attack capitalism. So the neo-Marxists, the AOCs of the world, have taken over the argument. The Green New Deal is a direct attempt to destroy capitalism, reduce the economic power of the United States and the Western world, reduces to a standard of living that instead of reducing, we should be sharing with the world. And my book explains how, but it is really an anti-God, anti-capitalist, anti-human movement.
So what lies ahead? More farmer protests, more Sri Lanka-like insurrections?
I believe we're going to see the hard left, this neo-Marxist left with the Biden administration, doing everything they can to implement this agenda now. And I believe they're going to go so far as lockdowns. COVID was going to kill us all, so we needed lockdowns, and now global warming is going to kill us all, so it's about totalitarian control.
Okay, the book is The Truth About Energy, Global Warming and Climate Change, Exposing Lies in an Age of Disinformation. Jerome Corsi, thank you for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and God bless.